This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Very Hard to Submit. Go to vhtsny.com and check out their kimonos, compression gear, and apparel. This is a brand we are excited to be supported by. Their gear is high quality with a clean design. Go to vhtsny.com and see for yourself.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Grappler Union Podcast. On this episode, we're joined by Sifu Marcus Charles of Southside Cali. Enjoy.
It ain't the 6 minutes. It's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me using any technique that works, never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
Good. All right, we are live. We are live. So, my good friend, Marcus Charles, who I haven't seen in 30 years. I don't know. How long has it been?
Not longer.
It's been so
Well,
long.
I seen Marcus sooner than that. I mean, come on. But yeah, can't say good friend, but definitely a good acquaintance. We've known each other a while now.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, for me, it's like having him in the room because he's such a critical part of my life from when I was like 15, 16 years old. Obviously, you're a lot older. You're like 7 years older than I am. So
it's not that much older.
But at that time, you can retain a little bit more. A lot of stuff, at that age, I was just like, things are like blur to me.
Are you gonna say
he's filling in pieces for me?
He's filling in the blanks on all these stories you've been telling for 90 episodes. It's like your extensive JKD background that you can't actually remember because you were like 15 at the time.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, was Hickson? He's like, yeah, Hickson. I've met him. I'm like, yes, thank God. I didn't dream that up.
Dream that up.
You're right.
I know this happened in my life, and I know I missed out on that, but. Marcus, good to have you, man.
Thanks,
and
man.
You're awesome.
Bam Bam.
Awesome
He's a
dog.
boxer pit mix, right, buddy? Okay, sit. You're gonna have to chill.
He wants to get up on mic there. Look at him. Look at him.
He does. Plots. He was trained in German commands, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So that's why if you hear me yell something, it's in German.
Oh, nice.
So,
Cool.
But anyways,
Well, welcome.
thanks, man. And Javier, good to see you again.
No,
dog.
good to see you. How you been?
Good.
So you guys have you said 30 years or so. You've got a pretty extensive past. Marcus and I have met, and we've got a lot of friends in common and whatnot.
Yeah.
We met at the catch wrestling gym once it had already moved to the tool and die shop in Bensonville. Okay. So just a tiny bit of backstory. Usually when people talk about the tool and die shop, my memories go back to our first gym, which was in Stone Park. Okay. And then circumstances, things happen, yada, yada, yada. We went from working out regularly at the tool and die shop in Stone Park to working out regularly at Triton College, which was a really awesome era because we had a lot of good wrestlers come in and work with us, and we had a lot more mat space at the time. But then eventually Kevin King moved his tool and die shop over to Bensonville, and we had this really awesome gym / man cave up on the second floor. I got pictures of it still. It's no longer there, unfortunately. But and that's where me and Marcus met. And so I didn't know him at all coming in. But again, like we knew a lot of the same people, Dion and Balicki and whatnot, a lot of JKD guys and whatnot. And I got to set this up correctly so chime in here if I'm misremembering. But so Tony likes to Tony Cicchini, my catch wrestling coach, likes to really break you down when you first join. Like you gotta find out what you're capable of, and then he's gonna make you push past that.
Right.
Okay. And I think I've told the story on the podcast before about I don't remember the number, but it was some obscene number of
ridiculous number.
Hindu squats and
the
Hindu
sprawls
push-ups.
were phenomenal.
Oh yeah, like sprawl burpee combinations and things like real intense workouts. And it's like that scene in a movie where it's like the kung fu master tests your resolve, and if you don't pass the test, you're not going to be training there. And every hero in the movie obviously has the resolve, but for sure haven't been there a while. I've seen guys fail out of it. They're just like, oh, this isn't for me. And like it gets better.
Well, the best part I remember, because when I started with him, Augie Rodriguez clicked me up with him.
and we were at Triton. We
Right,
went there.
right.
You know, I signed up for the whole Chi-Town thing, whatever. You know, and I met Tony, and he had a Jeep, like a purple Jeep. I remember he came pulling up into the parking lot, and he had this big envelope with all the DVDs and everything in there. Great guy, you know, and still a great guy, I'm sure. I haven't talked to him in forever, so
Yeah, I can. Like I said,
we got to connect. I got to connect with him
connected.
again. But and we were talking. Then the tool and die shop thing started under that floor, and I remember he's painting and everything like that. And I remember the first day I walked in, I was like, "Man, this is cool." And then you get that smell from the tool and die shop coming up, which is cool because it's like it's that old school catch.
Right? No.
You know,
I can't stress how much of a bizarrely authentic experience that is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, the place wasn't like. It wasn't appropriate for like public consumption, really. But yeah,
no,
like,
you couldn't have a women's kickboxing class.
Yeah, no, that ain't going to go down at all.
Yeah.
You're not getting any street traffic. You know, you have to walk through like a dirty, dingy tool and die. Like not dirty, like, but you know,
It's
like
tool and
work's
die.
being
Yeah, of
done.
course.
Yeah, tool and die shop just to get up to the second floor, and you walk up there, and there's the perpetual smell of like machining oil.
Yeah, of course.
And Kevin and Tony would smoke cigars up over by the pool table.
Is that for real?
Yeah. We had a mini bar. Like, I'm not kidding when I say it was a man cave. So there was showers, sauna, like a steam shower sauna, like a one person steam room type thing. Then we had there was the sink and the mini bar was over there. It wasn't really that mini. It was a bar.
Yeah.
And the pool table was over there. And then there was a section where we had a bunch of couches set up with a television. A lot of Kevin's hunting trophies were right around there. Then we had a very large matted out space with a section that we could rope off. We there were metal pillars, okay, and Tony had set it up where you could rope it off to simulate kind of like a boxing ring sized area to work, you know, within a ring, and then the whole side next to the wrestling area and the ring area was just all machines, like, you know, bench press and pull down lat machines.
Wow.
And then like probably the thing that people considered most goofy was there was a tanning bed up there too.
Yeah.
Tanning bed?
There was a tanning bed up there. Yeah, it was the coolest thing because he had the most updated machines that you could buy that you'd see at a gym, and then you'd even have machines in there that you get at Kmart. Were sitting in there, and they were good machines. You got good workouts in there.
We also had stuff that was like custom made. So
the
gripper.
Yeah.
So like this is very difficult, obviously, to follow along audio, but I think Kevin, but it might have been Tony. One of them had requested a custom made machine, and it was like it had a bar that you could put a bunch of plates on, okay, sitting up and down vertically, okay, and then there was a handle that you would grip onto, and then a secondary handle. And when you squeezed, that caused that you were manipulating the bar of weight that was like above your hand. So you squeeze it like, you know, like you would like a grip trainer.
Right, yeah.
Okay, but you could put tons and tons of weight on there if you really wanted to. And yeah, like there were frequently times where I'd walk in there and be like, I got to squeeze it, and it wasn't going to budge at all.
Yeah, and then he'd walk up there and he'd just squeeze it.
Yeah, clamp it close.
Wow.
Yeah, you shook hands with him, you know.
Yeah, I shook hands. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about the workouts. That's the first day we met.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
because we were doing the sprawls and whatever, and I was just dying. And you literally are coming up, come on, Marcus, let's go. You're just lifting me up by the arm. Come on, let's go. I'm like, man, what the heck did I get myself into? You know what I mean?
Right. No,
and I always thought I was in here. I mean, like I said, that was my second coming, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I always thought I was in halfway decent shape, you know, but I was working full time. I was a normal guy, you know, and maybe when we first met, I would have been able to possibly make it through a lot easier than I did, but that was rough. And I'll never forget those, you know, the one thing I always said about Tony, and I don't care about anybody's rank, I don't care about anybody's championships. If there's a guy, when I'm walking down the street at night, that I want behind me to back me up, it would be Tony.
No shit.
That I'll never, ever take that away from him. And I've trained with a lot of guys throughout the years. I mean, with Paulson and whoever. And I'm not saying these guys ain't guys that can't handle. I'm not, you know, taking anything away from them. But Tony's just got that something that I just had that, I shouldn't want to feel safe with somebody because I'm a guy myself when I train.
No.
But you know what I'm driving
for
at.
sure.
When you need backup, you need backup. And Tony's the guy I know that even to this day, if I ever get a hold of him, then I needed help. I know to this day he would go out of his way to help.
Yeah, he's that kind of he's old school like that.
Yeah,
So let's go back about I want to go back to his first coming.
Well, I do want to say something about the second coming though.
Yeah,
So he's working out. He's trying to keep pace with all the rest of us, and I think we only had like I think it was probably me and maybe Martin was there that day.
Martin was there.
Yeah, Martin. So Martin, who
phenomenal shape.
Yeah, like. Of our guys was probably the number 1 or number 2 in terms of like endurance, cardio. Like he would run marathons in addition to the kind of stuff we did. And like I couldn't keep up with him in my prime at all. Okay, like there was a clear gap in terms of overall endurance and whatnot. So Tony's basically punishing all of us because Marcus is there as the new guy and he's got to see just how intense we work out. So like maybe things are going to tone down a little bit once he's a regular, but that first day we got to kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And sure enough, I see him like not able to get up from the. I'm like, dude, you got to get up. Like come on, just push through it. Go a little slower if you have to, but just keep working. Right. Okay. But I'm trying to keep up with the pace, and Tony's like pushing it hard, and he's gonna make Martin tired. Yeah. And like I said, I can't keep up with that. Like I just can't. On my best day, I wouldn't be able to. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to push through it, and I'm trying to push through it. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna die here too. And sure enough, like we get through maybe the first half of the workout, and Tony's like, all right, you can have a break for some water or something. And I go to get some water, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking throw up. So I'm trying to help Marcus. I'm trying to be like, hey, just keep with it. Yeah. And I go. We had a door that led to like the outside roof area where we could it was open air and whatnot. And I like run straight for that door, and I thought for sure I was going to hurl, and then I realized I have nothing in my stomach. Shit. So I literally had like the worst case of the dry heaves in my life that day on the roof. I still remember it was a sunny day. I'm just like, oh God, please just let me throw up so it'll stop. And then I had to go back in and do the second half of the workout.
Thanks to Marcus. Yeah.
Thanks to Tony. I mean,
Well, what's interesting with that type of thing was that once you got through that workout, and then we went to train, like technical whatever, and you got a 15-minute break or whatever it was between the actual workout and that, you felt really good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could it's like a high almost.
You had to get your head around it.
Yeah. Man, how great are you going to feel when you finish this? And that was the thing that I really liked about Tony was his, that for lack of a better word, that crazy push, drive, go, and you get so mad at him.
Right. Oh no.
Yeah, but you're afraid to quit because you don't want him to take you and throw you down the stairs. Right. You know what I mean? Because not that he would, but my point is that
I never actually witnessed him throw anyone down the stairs.
No. But I mean, just the old man that's going to beat the crap out of you because you're not listening to him. Right. Because he was old school. Yeah. And you were afraid to quit.
Right.
It's like that was the point. It was like you were afraid, and I think at that point that was good for me. For me. Maybe nowadays, I don't know if a lot of people can handle that. Maybe they can. There's a lot of different mentalities now, younger people, than it was like when we were growing up. But I think it's great. I think if anybody can get a chance to train with Tony, and I think they're missing out if they don't, especially out here in Chicago. I mean, he's here. Wherever he's at. I mean, he's there, I mean, I'm
going to speak just like in a general sense about wrestling, but obviously the majority of my wrestling experience comes from working with Tony. Like, I wrestled in high school a little bit, and I've trained with a lot of college guys and whatnot. But I think it's a pretty universally understood thing that, like, when you go to wrestling practice, it's hard work. You should leave sore and exhausted. And at some point, especially when you're like getting really, really broken down near comp, for example, like you got a big tournament coming up or something. At some point, you're probably going to go and say to yourself, like, I don't want to go, but you have to make yourself go. you know, or you're like, I hate my coach, he's a fucking asshole, but you know he's doing the right thing for you, you know, like, and that, you know, not that wrestling is exclusive that way, but like that was just the level of intensity that we, you know, we dealt with a lot. And frankly, in my experience since then, like most gyms, whether it's judo or jiu-jitsu or whatever, most gyms don't tend to push guys that hard at all. So I see a hard workout at another gym that I'm going in, and I'm like, that wasn't bad,
right?
You know, like we're not just talking rose-colored glasses. Like I remember doing 500 push-ups in a day, in between wrestling. Like that was just normal.
He had that phrase I'll never forget, where it's like your body has a warning that's way low before you get hurt.
Right.
I'll never forget that when I'm going through a workout or whatever. Yeah. I always remember that phrase that he said. You're not going to get hurt yet. That's your body's got a very, very conservative shutoff valve. You're not going to get hurt. I won't let you get hurt.
Right.
And that's cool. You know.
And I mean, in all the time I trained with him, I never actually saw him push somebody to like a true breaking point. Yeah. But I definitely saw guys mentally break.
Sure.
Yeah. And that happened. I don't want to say on the regular, but it was not uncommon.
But that's who he was. I mean, that's what made him as who he is, the legend he is today.
Right. Now, you guys met under slightly different circumstances, right?
Yeah.
That was, if I remember, the first meeting, the first thing that comes to my mind was when we had that battle. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. Sorry, guys. It's the first time doing this. So.
No problem.
When we had the gang war, remember at the church or the grammar school, whatever it was.
Wait! Gang war at the grammar school.
Well, it was it was the grammar school's like gymnasium that was like 4 blocks away from the actual school itself. It was like a gym, like a social center.
Is this one where you almost got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That was early days.
That was 92.
Yeah.
I think I may have met you before that, but that's
we trained because we trained around 26th Street.
Right.
There, but then we moved to that place when that closed.
Yeah.
We moved across the street.
Yeah.
We did a lot of stuff outside. In the park.
Oh yeah, that was the American Martial Arts Academy.
American Martial Arts Academy. Yes.
Yeah, and then that shut down. And we were across at the park.
And
outside. Then I think we went to this place.
Yep.
If I remember right, and that was one of our quote unquote legend. Times that'll never go away.
Never.
I mean, because it was, if I remember right, a guy named Randy is the one who kicked that off because he said something to some gangbanger's girlfriend.
Yeah.
If I remember right. And what ended up happening was he came running or something. If I remember right, Randy, if I'm getting this wrong, I apologize. But I just remember he came to the school and he said something's going on. And next thing you know, more and more of these guys are showing up. They're showing up. And there's maybe 5, 6 of us or something.
Yeah, there was that many of us.
And I remember Dave Gomez. You were dating his sister, I think, at the time, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just remember him going out there. He just got on Cook County as a correctional officer.
That's right.
And I remember him taking the badge and telling them that freeze. And they're just basically telling him, blankety blank, they don't care, and so he flipped out.
He gave me his gun.
Yeah, I remember. And then I remember everything just started happening.
Yes,
because it was me and Molinar were out there, and then I don't know where
we had our collie sticks. You
and him. I think it was you and Gomez, if I remember right. I can't remember the whole thing, that part. I just remember that Gomez got cut off because we were trying to get everybody in because the police were coming. Dan's like trying to get us in. There's only 4 or 5 of us, right? So and they're just more and more of these guys are coming, And
they had it planned. That whole thing was.
Was
planned.
it? Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
That was the determination because they were only a few of them showed up, and then they started coming out of the gangways. So they already knew what they were doing.
Okay.
They knew that they were going to triple, quadruple team us
everything.
Up.
Yeah. Well, I just remember Gomez got cut off. And I was like, where's Dave? We all get him. Where's Dave? And I'm looking, and he's swinging his sticks around just like a movie. Just these guys are coming at him, and he's just circling. Pop, 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 pop. Anybody who wants to cut down Collie for any reason, we've seen it, man. Yeah. I mean, you could say whatever you want about it. That was it. We've seen it. That modern hardcore Collie right there. Anyways, so I went out there. And that's when I just started swinging, trying to get to him. And he fell. And I remember I picked him up, threw him on my shoulder, and we were going back. And Dion's trying to get us back in, right? And so all of a sudden, somebody either, I don't remember what it was. Somebody was swinging an axe handle or something.
Axe, yes.
Wasn't
through
it?
the window.
Yeah, it broke the
It
window.
broke the window behind me, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Dion pulled me in.
Yeah, okay.
And the window, the axe.
And
Fucking
then
crazy,
something
dude.
You were
happened.
how old when this happened?
I was a teenager.
She was a teenager, yeah. And then I remember with Dave, I just remember I got hit in the back of the head with something. So I remember I had a bunch of stitches back here. And that was like one of the first epic times of Southside, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I will honestly say, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, at that time, that summer of 1992, we were the toughest guys out there in martial arts.
For sure.
And it wasn't no rules, nothing. We were it. With the combination of all of us together, because you had me, Molinar, Dion,
Randy.
Gomez, Gabe,
Big Gabe,
who I
and
just
Little
had,
Gabe.
and Little Gabe.
Yep.
Yeah, all of us. It was just an unbelievable time back then.
It was.
It just really was. And then we were all proteges of Paul Vunak.
Yep.
And he, he's another guy. People could say what they want about.
A lot of stories about Vunak.
Yeah, and he's definitely another guy. People could say what they want about the guy.
Actually,
but he's the pit bull. He's a little dude. Pit bulls, fighting weight pit bulls are about 55, 60 pounds. And they'll take on anything, and they don't care if they lose. Their thing is the game. They keep going, they keep going. That's Paul. He doesn't care if he's losing the fight. He's going to keep going. Yeah. And that's that tenacity that he's got. So he's like the next guy I would want behind me. You got Tony and him. I think it'd be pretty safe.
You were safe.
You know what I mean?
Safe.
Yeah.
Dion was scary back then, wasn't he? He was a scary dude.
Dion was
I remember,
Dion, yeah.
I was afraid of Dion back then.
So let me just say something real quick here. The majority of our listening audience probably doesn't have any idea who we're talking about.
Okay.
Because,
Dion?
Well, Dion has a last name.
Dion Ricardo. Sorry. Dion Ricardo.
But like Paul Vunak, obviously very well known in the JKD circles and whatnot. Perhaps less known in the general grappling circles that we run in heavily now. But yeah, so Vunak back in the late 80s and 90s was one of the more serious reality self-defense guys. In the JKD
wasn't he
circles.
training SEALs in California?
What happened? Here's what's interesting with all that is that when JKD was going, when I got into it, and then
and what year did you get into it?
I started
it early 90s.
It was 1990 was when I met Dion. It was at Morton College.
Yeah, okay.
And I met him there, and I was heavily into lifting back then.
You were jacked. I mean, you're still big.
Yeah, I'm kind of fat now, but anyways.
Back then, I remember Marcus was like, I'm like, wait, you want me to pull pads for that guy? I ain't fucking kidding me. He's so giant.
You were like 90 pounds back then?
If that, I don't know. But yeah.
I was lifting back then. So he comes up to me and goes, "Hey, do you lift?" I said, "Yeah, of course." I was a cocky guy, wore the T. Michael shirts and, you know what I mean? The big, ugly, what are those pants called? I forgot now.
The Zubaz pants?
The zebra pants that puffed out, whatever, whatever.
Hammer pants.
Yeah, was that what those called?
I don't remember what they were actually
Zubaz.
called.
I think they're called Zubaz.
That's what they call them now. I don't know if that's the same thing from back then, though.
I thought it was.
Well, either way. I can't believe I wore those when you look at it now. But anyways.
Because it made you have that figure.
It got you the
really,
taper.
really skinny waist, giant up
legs.
top.
Yeah, it made you like big legs. Yeah. Most of the guys who lifted, they would just lift on top.
Exactly. Right. Teeny tiny legs.
Yeah.
They buy those pants.
Yeah. Parachute pants.
Parachute pants. There you go. Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I met Dion. And I remember I had dabbled into different martial arts before, but I wasn't that. Oh, I'm sorry, man. It's okay. I wasn't that much of a fan of them, really. I mean, I'd see guys who were, high level martial artists, and you get the crap kicked out of them in a bar or something. I mean, and nowadays, when I think about it, it's like, well, there's a lot more to it than that. But as a young kid,
right.
You think, it's about fighting. Anyways. I
mean, that is a good bar to set if you want to learn how to fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, if you got a guy who's, 67 years old and he's an accomplished black belt, he may not do too well against a good, hardcore 22-year-old athlete. You know what I mean? But anyways, regardless of that. So I remember he told me to throw a punch at him, And I was like, you know. So here's a guy, you know, he does bench press. It's like, like, you know, going super slow, so basically. And he does a gunting on my bicep, you know, and this big welt came out like that. Yeah. Man, this is cool, you know, this is cool. And so that's how I met him. And then I remember going to meet him at the American Martial Arts Academy, and I went to train with him. But I remember the first and only time I trained with Ron Balicki was he was teaching a Kali class. And I remember Anthony Rojas, who was one of the police officers who owned the gym. Yep. He says, well, you could jump into class till Dion gets here. I was like, okay, cool. So I jumped in, and all these sticks are doing all this stuff. I didn't know anything. I mean, I'm clunking myself in the head and all that stuff. I didn't know what this stuff was. Yeah. You know, so, oh, this is cool. But, you know, so then Dion comes, and I was like, man, do I got to do that? You know what I mean? It's like, it was so technical, I thought, at the time. Sure. You know, and it still is. But so anyway, so that was how it started. But the whole thing going back with Paul was, with JKD as a whole, at the tail end of that was JKD was trying to prove themselves as a legitimate art that is functional. And you had Paul, you had Larry Hartzell, who I trained with after, that was my second coming, training with him. And Paul was like very admirable of Larry. You know, Larry was a big, jacked up dude in the day, which I never met him back then. I met him towards the tail end when he got sick. That's that picture on Instagram with Tony. I brought Tony with,
Tony was very happy that you had that still.
But JKD was trying to prove themselves, and back then you didn't have tournaments. You know, I remember Dion taking me and Gomez to the Windy City Boxing Gym when it was on Ogden, and that was when the movie Gladiator came out. Remember the movie? Not with Russell Crowe, with Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah, the boxing
Gladiator. Yeah, when that came out,
I definitely tried to block a lot of punches with my forehead after seeing that movie.
Did that work?
Not great.
No.
So those guys were into that. So then obviously we're following suit with that when we were younger. That's what we were doing. Yeah. Then all of a sudden this guy comes out, you know, named Hickson Gracie, or the Gracies come.
Right.
And Paul was talking about the guy. And Paul was from our lineage, meaning with Dion. Paul was the guy who started introducing us to jiu-jitsu through Dion Ricardo, because he started training with him. And
Sorry, just to interject. Yeah. Now, this was before Paul had coined the phrase progressive fighting system.
No.
Or was it already?
PFS was even before we got
I wasn't
involved.
sure.
Yeah. But Paul was a very functional guy. Yet, for some reason, and then Shudo was just starting to come around.
Right, that came through Yori Nakamura.
Yeah.
And Balicki was big into that.
Yeah, but what ended up happening was that I guess Paul had already kind of gotten his wings to leave the academy. And again, my history may be really rough here, guys. So
it's okay.
But so he got more into jiu-jitsu as time went on because Hickson came, and then Dion started bringing Hickson out. And that was like 91, 92, maybe 93. He brought him out. Yeah. And I remember sitting there with him it was at the Berwyn Rec Center over there. And
sitting with who?
With Hickson at the seminar. Like he's sitting there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
this is ponytail Hickson back in the day, right? Like with the top knot or no?
No.
I'm just trying to place the era.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like that. And I just remember looking at his hands, and it's like, it's not the same kind of jiu-jitsu that you kind of hear about now, what he did. Because, meaning you could tell this guy's gotten into it. You know what I mean? His hands were, calloused up and stuff. He threw punches,
Oh, yeah.
And so, it's not like where you go to which I'm not saying anything bad about, but, you go to the IBJJF like they just had in August. I mean, they're not throwing punches. They're just doing jiu-jitsu, which is cool. But he was more old school, the Vale Tudo style type of stuff. And I think that's why Paul liked him, because he was a tough guy.
Yeah, of course.
Paul, Dion, we are always looking for guys who could fight, or at least had the reputation that they could fight, and now you got to define what do you think a fight is, but that's a whole nother thing. But what he ended up doing was getting Dion involved into jiu-jitsu. And that's when everybody started getting involved in it. And I started kind of tapering away from things for a while. And that was my own personal, everybody gets demons and they have to fight them. So I kind of missed that part of the hardcore Hickson training. Like some guys like Lyndon, who is really into that. And, he's got the old school mentality of the jiu-jitsu training and stuff.
Lyndon Viteri.
Yeah. I always mispronounce it, so I don't want to say it. Okay. But anyways, and he was a little bit later. Augie Rodriguez. He was another guy, a very functional, guy, was into the jiu-jitsu stuff. So, but that's kind of like where I like to stand up. And the one thing I wish I was able to get into, and we always look back and say what I should have done.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, is Muay Thai. I like Muay Thai. And I think it's phenomenal. I think it, especially in the shape that I was in back then, I think it would have been awesome to be able to do it in that hardcore way like Master Chai does now. And a lot of these TBA guys do. I mean, like you said, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I could still do it, even though I'm an old man now. But anyways, but the second coming came was with Tony. Like I said, I was missing the other stuff. So I ended up clicking with Hartzell more, Sifu Larry, and who was not that big of a jiu-jitsu fan. He was more Shudo.
Right.
Really into Shudo.
It's funny
Which
enough.
has jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So just a little background. My first experience of even hearing the term catch wrestling, outside of like some obscure historical reference about like Lincoln or something, was actually through, I can't remember if it was a book or an article in Black Belt or something, but Larry Hartzell had put out something and he had referenced catch wrestling. So like, I didn't, I'm like this huge martial arts nerd back then. And it's like, what is this strange thing he speaks of here that I am not familiar with? So I started doing research specifically because Larry Hartzell, this is in my like prime JKD days, had talked about it and very quickly found out that Shudo was descended from catch wrestling in part. Sayama had combined various martial arts to form Shuto. And one of them was the catch wrestling that he had learned under Karl Gotch. So, yeah.
Well, what was interesting is that what happened with the JKD community, because a lot of these guys are almost, they all got like black belts under somebody. Even Eric's got a black belt under Hickson. This one guy I trained with, Daniel Sullivan, he's got a black belt under, I forgot the guy's name even. There's so many of these guys now.
When you say Eric, you meant Paulson?
Eric Paulson, I'm sorry. Yeah. I know the guy. I say Eric. Sensei Eric
like
Paulson.
I said, just for the listeners at home, I know you meant.
Yeah. What the interesting thing about it is that the JKD community somehow seemed like it's split, where a lot of them were focused more just on the artistic part of it, which is not. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because some people just aren't hardcore athletes. They think it's cool to do something. They get a little bit of a sweat, and that's fine. But they're not really fighters. They don't want to fight. They're not one of these guys that that's going to step up to the challenge, so to speak, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of guys were more functional, because JKD basically is a functional art. It's based on street self-defense. So guys like Sifu Larry, Hartzell, Paul Vunak, his partner Tom Cruise, the real Tom Cruise, these guys
are different.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and of course Eric Paulson. These guys were hardcore. They were fighters. Eric wasn't a street fighter per se.
No, but he had a lot of fights in Shudo. Early days NHB.
Yeah.
In fact, like, this is terrible, but like he'd own up to it 100%. Eric Paulson used to fight with a long ponytail.
Yeah.
And he, I can't remember what the event was at all. It was not the UFC.
No, it was another
like XFC or something.
It was one of those that's everybody, they start copying, mimicking
or
stuff.
King of the Cage. Or, I can't remember what. But he gets into an early days no hold barred fight. He goes in there with long ass ponytail, and I had long hair at the time too. And
I know they bundled it up, but then it got loose.
Yeah. And the dude just grabbed him by the hair. Ouch. and just controlled him the whole round by his hair.
Really?
And and it was
It's on YouTube. You can find it.
this is a pretty famous fight.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the dude was, but like everyone.
That was legal though.
Yeah, there wasn't anything against hair pulling.
Wow.
And the guy realized it like
crazy.
mid fight. It was just like, oh, okay, gimme.
Yeah.
And that was a bad fight for Paulson. Especially because like he was coming in as like this well-known established fighter, had a ton of shuto fights in Japan. I can't remember the ranking system in Japan, but like whatever like the highest rank of fighter was.
I think he was he won it twice, and was the first non-Asian to win the championship, if I remember right.
That sounds correct.
Yeah. But he's another guy who was a fighter. Like I don't know if it was that fight, but there was a fight, if I remember correctly, where he went in, his nose was already broke, and he still went into the fight. So, there's this thing of like, and this is where the blend comes in, at least from my journey, because you get these guys who are the quote unquote street guys, like you're talking about Paul Vunek with teaching the SEALs and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there that are hardcore like that, and they would never do a tournament, so to speak, because there's rules. Okay, cool. I get it. I see the mentality of it. But let's flip that over for a second. You get somebody like Eric Paulson, who's got a busted nose, and he still goes in to fight.
Right.
That's balls. Yeah. That's balls. You're not always going to be in the best shape of your life. You're not always going to know the guy you're going to fight in front of you. So I get the street fighting mentality. But at the same time, there's the flip side of being able to bring yourself to that level of physical ability, athleticism, and having that mental strength to fight through whatever pain you have to, even if it's just that one guy in front of you.
Right.
I do not see anything wrong with either way. Obviously, street fighting nowadays it's always been frowned upon, but even worse now.
Right.
You got lawsuits, and everybody's got the phones, so you can't get away with anything. Right. So I'm not condoning street fighting. And I don't think you need to do that anymore to prove yourself, because every corner there's a gym with a ring or something for you to get that aggression out.
Right.
Now,
I remember when I was. Did you guys go out and like start fights?
Oh, wait.
No.
Has the statute of limitations run out on this?
I think it has run out. That was
we were innocent bystanders. Who knows? In retrospect, I'm going to get a little philosophical here, but almost every issue that I've ever gotten into, and I bounced for 15 years, by the way, at different, I kind of followed, like Sifu Larry Hartzell was very famous. By the way, everybody knows Roadhouse, right? That was loosely based on Sifu Larry.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, loosely based on Sifu Larry. Nice. Yeah, from what I was told. So, you could always get out of an altercation.
Sure.
Most of the ones I've been in, you could always somehow figure out a way to get out of it if you wanted to. When I think back on it.
Yeah.
In retrospect, is that who made me who I am in the arts? Yeah, but would I have changed certain things? Probably.
Of course.
There's a number of incidents that I wish I never did that to the guy, but it is what it is. This is, what we
were
did.
young.
Yeah, and then, just like, you go, and then you hear about the people that you're looking up to who are doing the same thing, who do you emulate? Just like, without sounding, since you got the Cobra Kai shirt on, what did Miyagi say? Teacher say, student do.
Right.
So
exactly.
So I'm not putting blame on anybody.
Sure.
I'm just making the point that So, but I really think that if you can overstep that and get past that when you're a kid, like when I say kid, like early 20s, like when we started, and not have to quote unquote think you always have to prove yourself to somebody else.
Right.
Maybe prove something to yourself. You can get so much further in this and be such a quality person to society. That's why I like training with Rick Fay. Rick Fay's never, from what I understand, he's never really wasn't a guy who got into fights per se, but he was a guy, and he just said to me that one time, he goes, everybody's got a right to learn this art and to see the beauty of the art. He doesn't train fighters.
Right.
But he has.
Rick Fay?
Yeah,
I don't think Rick Fay's trained. Maybe he has. I don't think so. I know he sends people, let's say, to Greg Nelson.
Right.
But I don't think, if he has, I don't know about it.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I thought he has.
Maybe he has. I'm not sure. But anyways, he knows everything. Here's a guy who's, you look at his manual and there's just like, you got Kali, you got Panatukan, you got Muay Thai, you got JKD or John Fan, and now you got his grappling program, and you got Silat, which is a killer grappling art. Mm-hmm. It's a killer art.
And Asano still teaches it.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal thing. But anyways, it's kind of funny because what got me, what I really liked with Sifu Larry was, and Paul Vunik used to talk about boxing quite a bit, and Dean, but it was never like a main focus. Right. But Sifu Larry used to say, when all this stuff goes out the window, your punching is going to save you. Mm-hmm. And I still say this. I've been saying this forever. When it comes to hands, boxers got the best hands in the business in martial arts. And I don't like saying somebody's better than anybody else because every situation is different. You're talking about shape, intent, and everything else in a fight. But when it comes down to it, all else is equal. When those hands start coming, I mean, it's just phenomenal. Yeah. Their training methods and it's just the linear motion and everything. It's just great. I just love it. What I like about Muay Thai is the kicking and their discipline that they have. So if you can get, what I like is that if you can get the foundation of wrestling, catch wrestling, boxing, and Muay Thai, and you could build that as your base. Yeah. All this other cool stuff, like the Wing Chun, the Panatukan, the dirty boxing, whatever word you want to use, that just makes it that much better. Right. That much better. Somebody may say, well, yeah, you got to get to my groin first. You're not going to get there. Because, you get the guy will say, well, I'll just kick him in the groin and he's out. And another guy will say, yeah, but you got to get there first. Okay. But you could slip up and get kicked there, so be careful. You know what I mean? It could happen. Right. You know what I mean? Or you can get poked in the eye or whatever. Whatever. But the thing is that if you could focus on what you like, but be smart enough to be humble enough to know. Let's say some guys who like, I like Wing Chun. I think it's phenomenal art. I train under Sifu Francis Fong, and he's a very functional Wing Chun guy. Very functional. Okay? But, it's so intricate at times, it kind of gets frustrating. I get aggravated. It's just like, you got to, wait a minute, I can't get it over. You know what I mean? You got to get the pinky in a certain way. I'm being facetious there, but it's like, man, I just want to kick Thai pads because I'm getting frustrated, But it just adds to the art of you. If you want to be a martial artist and a fighter and everything. Now, if you're one of these guys that just wants to do BJJ and that's your goal and that's what you want to strive for, that's cool. That's your life. That's great. And you could be the best BJJ guy out there, and you could probably be a tough fighter and could defend yourself and everything else. That's great. But if you're thinking that that's the best, you got to pull back and say that's the best for you at this particular time. It's not the best necessarily, because every situation is different. Right. Guru Dan Asano said this at the camp I was at, and I thought it was phenomenal. He goes, what's a jiu-jitsu guy going to do in a pool?
Well, I don't know. Can he swim? Because otherwise he's just going to drown.
Right, exactly. I mean, what's he going to do? Right. He's going to start punching. He's going to have to, right? So you need the boxing in there, right? I mean, the old thing with Paul Vunik used to say, what would happen if Larry Hartzell took down Mike Tyson and did a chicken wing on him, Right. If you can get there, because obviously Mike Tyson had the hands, right. But so does that mean that boxing doesn't work? It's not good. Of course not. That's crazy. Right. But like here when I bounced, all the years I bounced, God forbid I didn't want to go down to the ground. Right.
Right. Get stomped on.
Yeah. I mean, does that mean ground fighting it's garbage? Of course not. Yeah. But it depends on whatever situation you're in. Mm-hmm. And if people can pull away from that thing, and mine's the best and yours sucks and this, that, and the other thing, that's the one thing that I've learned over the years of staying away from. And that's what JKD, that's what Bruce was trying to say, I think, Bruce Lee. Everything has a purpose and everything has a place. And if you can understand that and just say, hey, I like catch wrestling. That's what I like doing. And I think it's great. And I'm in shape and I love it. I don't like doing it. I don't want to swing sticks around. I just don't want to do it. Okay, cool. But I have respect enough for the person that's doing it. Because that's what they like doing. Right. And if you can do that all these cool things. Now, excuse me, I like the poster you had up. Is that the first one?
That's the first one.
The very first. Yeah, I remember watching that, and that was kind of I taught at Keith Hackney's gym for a while, and
the one over
in Roselle off of Lake
yeah.
Street, yeah, and all the way up until he closed. And,
So, sorry, just to interject.
Yeah.
Is he closed, or did he move locations? I know he's not there anymore.
No,
but.
he closed, and then some other, I forgot the guy's name, but he kind of took the name. Keith let him have the name, but he's not, like.
Okay, he's hands off on it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But here's another guy who is a hardcore black belt Kempo guy. But a lot of that really didn't help him in the ring.
Right.
When he was fighting.
Well, it didn't look like Kempo, at least.
Exactly, right. Well, you thought, yeah, right. So does that mean Kempo doesn't...
Not like a Jeff Speakman
right.
For sure.
Don't be bringing
happening.
up Jeff Speakman. That's how I got into stick fighting.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I love
that movie.
The Perfect Weapon.
That was a great movie, yeah.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that Kempo is not any good. It just means for that particular situation, it wasn't... It probably wouldn't fit. And he got into grappling quite a bit after that. Keith was
Keith wrestled in high school, didn't he?
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, he got into
in the submissions and whatnot. But I don't know if it's still there. Keith was a student of, the name's going to escape me, but it was White Tiger Kempo.
Yes.
Right off of 53.
He's still there.
Yeah,
He's still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know Hackney had opened up Hackney's Combat Academy over in Roselle there. Yeah. So I know that had since. I thought he had just moved. I didn't know that.
No, he kind of just got out of it. I mean, it's kind of funny in business was it's like, fighters don't pay any money. It seems like that was his thing. They just don't pay. Mm-hmm. That was the biggest beef. But yeah, who knows? I mean, that I knew nothing about. But he was another guy where it's like when you talk about rolling with somebody, was like if I rolled with Comprito, it's like there's an anaconda on me. Okay, a snake. I don't know where he's at. If I rolled with Tony or Eric Paulson, it was like a grizzly bear because I'm being hurt every inch and step of the way, either an elbow in a joint, whatever it is, something's whatever. Rolling with Keith Hackney was trying to bend roll bar because he would just stiffen. He was such a strong guy. He would stiffen up his arm. If you'd even try to do like, I forgot what the name of this
was. Like a chicken wing? Or gooseneck?
The gooseneck, that's it. I'm sorry, thanks, man. Yeah. When you try to do that, he's so strong, you got to get that. He's just one of those dudes. And how cool, I mean, when you think about if you could, and my goal was until I got hurt again, I've been like injury prone. 45 kind of sucked for me because I hit 45 to now I'm 49. Now I'm getting better. But it's like those 5 years, rough 4 years are kind of rough for me for whatever reason. But that was like my goal to kind of work with, all these different guys to kind of like get my own,
feel for it.
Grappling, whatever. Josh Barnett. I mean, I remember the first time I met him at Eric Paulson's place. Another phenomenal fighter, catch wrestler. Nice guy too. I don't know if you ever met him when you were in Japan.
No,
okay.
Not actually met. We again, like a lot of dudes that we know in common and whatnot.
Yeah.
But Barnett was supposed to come out here to Chicago. Mm-hmm. Not trying to call him out or anything, and that fell through. And I was just like, man, like this is literally one of my favorite fighters at the time. Still love a lot of the stuff he does, but like at the time he was like king of the fucking world.
He was the man, yeah.
And I was so looking forward to an opportunity to train with him and nerd out with him.
What's interesting with a lot of this stuff is that, like, with martial arts, and that's why I kind of brought up, like, with the place I work at on the weekend, Chicago Canine Academy, because his name's Jim Morgan, and this guy's 72, 73 years old. Guru Dan's 82, 83 years old. These guys are, like, in phenomenal shape.
Right.
Not just because of not comparison to age, just to compare to anybody, okay, regardless of age. And I think that these hardcore arts like boxing, Muay Thai, catch wrestling, even like jiu-jitsu, because I know there's some, like Comprito's jiu-jitsu school, those guys are all competitors. They're a competing team. So it's pretty hardcore jiu-jitsu there. I mean, they're rolling every day, and they're going for gold, each time. Then I've heard other, I don't know who they are, but I've heard other jiu-jitsu schools are a little more laid back. It's a little more technique-oriented. They get a good sweat, and they could, they can roll, but they're not necessarily going for hardcore competition each time. So, you got to find what works for you. But your body can only take so much. And you have to be able to. So, do you do something for 10 years, and then let's say a UFC guy or fights or boxer or whatever, they fight 10 years, and then they give up and they're done, and then they just whatever, or do you try to figure out a way to keep the longevity going? And that's what if you look at like Kali or JKD, especially Kali, the 12 areas of Kali, like the last one is the spiritual, but I think number 11 is the healing arts. That doesn't mean you got to turn into Yoda or somebody who's like a self-healer, so to speak, but it's taking, I think it's more like taking care of
your body.
Yeah, that's my opinion. And somebody like in a Grudan in Asana, like I said, is 82 years old, and he's doing the bear crawl across the thing. I mean, it just boggles. I couldn't do it right now. And Jim Morgan is another guy Jim actually, again, a dog trainer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, Jim's a hardcore, no filter guy who, Vietnam vet, who's in the Tet Offensive, everything else, trains dogs for hardcore training. His training is hardcore for dogs. He told me about this book called The Five Tibetan Rituals. And I went back to college, so my degree is going to be in religious studies. So I've been focusing a lot on Buddhism now. And so I was like, wow, the 5 Tibetan rituals and Tibetan Buddhism, blah, 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 blah. And it's just really cool that these monks discovered these 5 exercises that supposed to do every day to really keep your body in shape. I can't do them all yet, but Jim does them every day. I asked Guru Dan about it. He's heard about them. Mm-hmm. So I guess where I'm leading, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but what I'm trying to say is, who'd have thought that a dog trainer is going to tell me about fitness and about being in shape? Ows. Hold on a second. Guys, stop. This is the hardcore training going on here. Bam, stop, sit.
Is someone here?
Yeah, somebody's walking in. Hold on a second.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't leave the door open.
Did someone come in here or no?
No, somebody probably came in.
Oh, they probably
outside.
thought.
Hey, it just made noise outside.
Hold on a second. Ows. Stop.
What's going on, Bam?
Nobody's. We're safe here, buddy. We got 3 guys in the window. Okay. Anyways, so that's another lesson I learned, is that if you can learn from anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody. And if you could take that and then bring it into whatever your style is, how cool is that? That's amazing. Let's say, when you go to Japan next time and you think about, wow, I see this book, Marcus told me about it. I mean, just that one thing, instead of like, I was guilty of this as well. What's he know about anything?
Right.
I'm speaking for myself. I was guilty of that.
No, it's very easy to get into that mentality.
Yeah. And I think if you could pull away from that, all this other stuff, I mean, you could just really absorb so much. And if you got a teacher that's willing to allow you to absorb it, because there's an art, Guru Dan mentioned this, which I thought was really cool. There's an art to learning.
100%.
Which is not just being able to, meaning keeping your mouth shut and listening to whatever the guy's telling you, but also being able to get the guy to give you what you want. Because a lot of guys, even not so much this day, but like when I started, we were, you didn't have all these different schools. So if you came into a particular school, that's where you were.
Yeah.
You didn't, cross-train with anybody else, so to speak. If you went to boxing, that's what you did. You did boxing. Taekwondo schools were like that too. You did Taekwondo. You didn't go to another Taekwondo school to check it out, to see, hey, maybe they could teach me something different. Right. You'd get your ass kicked. That was funny. Like
I've actually, just for the record, in my experience, that still is that way with a lot of Taekwondo and Tang Soo schools.
I'm not sure. Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've had some weird experiences in that regard, honestly.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad. I mean, I get it. I mean, if you come into a school and you say, oh, I'm a brown belt, I'll learn so-and-so, and I did this and I did that, and you're kind of braggadocious about it, yeah, you're going to get schooled there. Mm-hmm. But if you can come in there in a humble way, you really can absorb a lot of stuff from people. And if you could learn how to do that without rubbing somebody's feathers, you really can expand yourself. And I think that's the skill that Guru Dan has. Yeah. Because he just knows everything. Obviously, he's been around it forever. But Rick Faye's the same way. Those guys. But, I wanted to say this since we're on the air.
Go for it.
About you. The fact, not bad. The fact, you were nowhere near the shape you're in now when I met you.
Oh yeah, no, definitely
And
not.
yeah, that's what I was questioning. But the fact that you were able to do what you're doing, going to Japan and doing these tournaments and everything, and now Tony, you're doing seminars and Tony looks at you like that's phenomenal, man. That's motivation for me, dude. I mean, seriously.
Awesome. Well,
it is.
thank you for saying that.
It is, because it's like, I see these guys that they do it and then they give up, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with checking something out and not liking it, because it's like you go try out a certain kind of food and you don't like it. That's fine. But the fact that you took it to the level you took it, and are still taking it.
Yeah, I'm always
assuming,
trying.
I think that's great.
Thank you.
I don't know, one of my students, Ron Almeria.
Yeah. Ron is a regular participant in our catch wrestling seminars and workshops.
He's loyal, genuine student. You couldn't ask for a guy who's more genuine and loyal.
Great guy with a fantastic comic book collection too.
Extremely, yes.
Another reason we get along well.
Yeah, and if you ask him anything, if you text him, hey, wait a minute, is Loki really dead? And then you'll get the whole, you'll get a thing
one of those.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He's my people.
Yeah. He's a wrestling
pro wrestling fan.
Freak. He just knows everybody. But you got me thinking about the old days and this stuff, and it was just like I remember. I think you were with us then. Remember when one of the schools that opened up, they challenged us supposedly.
You guys had a gym raid?
And we went. It was me, Gomez, Molinar, Randy, and I think you were there. I'm not sure. We all had our PFS Chicago jackets on. Okay. We were like the Warriors, the movie Warriors jackets,
Those jackets were like a hot commodity.
It's on my Facebook. I found it.
I have my jacket.
Do you still?
Oh,
yeah, I got mine.
Oh, yeah. Why is it not hanging up here? Huh?
That's a good question.
It's worth a lot of money now.
It's worth tons.
But I remember we went to the school, and we literally walked to the school, and the guy who owned the school was just some older gentleman. And he's like, he didn't know what was going on. And the student who had said what he said about what we did was not well liked either there. And it could have really escalated into something that luckily it didn't. But the reason I'm kind of bringing it up is like when we go retrospect, that could have been a really cool thing at the time and kind of a cool story to tell now. But it actually, in a philosophical Buddhist way, it's kind of cool that it didn't.
Yeah.
And how everything kind of just settled down and nobody got mad at each other and nobody got to fight. And it was kind of anticlimactic, the story. Sorry, guys, but
better that way in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Because I think that a lot of street fighting guys, whatever, there's a certain stigma that's put on them, and they're not given a lot of respect in comparison to, let's say, guys who fight in the ring. They fight dirty or whatever. I don't know. Tony, what did he say? I don't know anybody who stayed clean in a fight. I think that's Tony who said that to me.
I'm pretty sure I've heard of that or some variation.
Something like that, yeah. So I just think that if all the years, like I think I was 20 when it started. I'm 49. The main thing that I learned is that with the art is that it can really help you explore other cultures and people. And if you pull back, let's say a certain culture, let's say even like in religion, in the southern Philippines has never been conquered. They've been occupied, I think, or maybe not even occupied, but those are Muslim. They're Muslim, and the northern they're Christian, they're Catholic, and they got a nice border there, and nobody ever crosses it. And what they do, which is what I like, is they absorb whoever kind of comes over at the time. Let's say the Spanish, the way they fight with the knife and the sword, they absorb that. And if you could take that and dissect where everything comes from, you start to learn about the culture of the people that you're learning the art from. And once you do that, you get a certain respect for them. And if you can get that respect and respect them, and hopefully they respect you back, I think you could kind of really pull away the layers of all the issues that you have in life, political issues, all kinds of racial, all kinds of stuff can just go away if you could just appreciate the culture that's there. And I think that's what Bruce Lee was trying to say, I think. And I think Guru Dan keeps trying to push that. And I think if we can do that constantly and take something from each art. Even catch wrestling. I mean, where did it come from? You go through different histories and things. Who was the one guy who had that nice book out? Mark Hatmaker? Is that his name?
Oh, dang. I know who you're talking about. The books from Paladin where it's
yes, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to embarrass myself by not being able to come with his name now because you said Hatmaker.
Isn't that him?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Crap.
It'll come to you after we're done.
No, I'm just going to cheat.
Cheat and look.
I'm gonna Google this one.
But he even had like a nice history of where everything came from, and then I didn't even know. Like if you go to like Eric Paulson's got a book on the history of wrestling, and I didn't know that BJ Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually has some catch wrestling in it.
100%.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
How cool is that? So does that mean that BJJ is obviously? So it's growing, it's evolving, like JKD growing, evolving.
Right.
And
so how you're still in JKD?
Yeah. I'm an instructor under Guru Dan in Asano. If you want me to brag, I will. But
please.
Okay. I'm a senior under Paul Vunak.
Okay.
I'm a senior under Sifu Larry Hartzell. I'm a senior associate under Guru Dan in Asano. I just got my CLOT level 1 instructorship under him.
Wow.
And I'm an instructor under Rick Fay. And I'm a coach under Eric Paulson in his STX. That's it. That's the book. That's
Mark Hewitt.
Mark Hewitt. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it had a Mark in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the book. But that had all that history in there.
Yeah, there's 2 of them actually.
Yeah.
Both awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
But so I still train all that. And I got myself into a thing of wanting to learn all these cool techniques and not focus too much on, does this work or doesn't it work? Or, who cares? That's how cool it is. Who cares if it works or not? I'm not getting into fights anymore, I hope. Mm-hmm. So, I know enough, I think, to, God forbid, I have to defend myself.
Sure.
And I got Bam Bam with me all the time. So, But
he was ready to defend all 3 of us. So.
Yeah, he was ready to go there. But the thing is that if you could pull back and check out, that's why I like CLOT so much. If you look at some of these CLOT guys, it kind of looks like what they're doing and it's really tough stuff. So I really think, and this is just a projection here, if you get a guy, let's say like yourself, who's a hardcore catch and you're in the shape and everything, and you started doing the CLOT, I really think that then you're going to see what CLOT really is, instead of somebody who just starts doing CLOT and seeing the technique, and they could do the technique great. And that's fine if that's all you want to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not insulting and trying not to. But if you really want to get the hardcore or whatever and be be a killing machine, so to speak, that's the way to do it, in my opinion.
I've actually, I've trained under a number of different.
Oh, have you? I didn't know that.
Guys.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Like I don't hold any rank in it or anything. But I trained at seminars with like Herman Swanda.
Yeah.
And I've been.
I think he passed away.
Tragically.
Yeah.
Right? Him. That was a real I don't remember exactly when it was. I remember. I want to say like early 2000s. Yeah, it was a car accident in Germany.
Okay.
And it was terrible. I only got to train with him a couple of times, but like that dude could do some stuff that like borderline seemed to defy physics.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so cool. Really
like amazing stuff. And sorry, I can't give it a fair shake really, but Silat always fascinated me. I was really into Harimau, which is the tiger style. It was very much the not ground fighting in a sense of like wrestling around, but like a lot of low stance, scissor takedowns, like up kick type stuff from the ground. Very, very interesting styles of movement that were, like supinated styles of movement and whatnot. And at the time, he was one of the best resources I had on that. So I was like super fascinated with his style and what he had to show. Honestly, like it's weird. I've always had sort of a fascination to like capoeira is like this, and there's a dog style of kung fu, Fujian, I think it's called. But like where it's like a lot of low stance, prone kicks, takedowns done with the legs, things like that. And that was just like something I found that was very much in common between like capoeira and silat, especially Harima style.
Yeah.
I've got a really weird and eclectic background. Everyone just focuses on my grappling.
What's interesting is that, only because what you read is that.
That's what I focus on these days too. So,
but what's interesting is that I always go back to Paul when it comes Paul Vunak. He had initially made a bunch of VHS tapes for Panther Productions.
I think I have them.
Yeah, he's got the high socks on and everything like that. Whatever. Sorry, Paul. But anyways, he's sitting at a desk and he's talking about attributes, and it's the attributes tape.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think if people can focus on that and get that down, that mentality, all this other stuff will work. When they say how it doesn't work, or that whole argument, it's all about the attributes. You and me can go do a layup, and I'll quote Paul in that. We could all do a layup, but we're not going to do it like he brought up Michael Jordan, I think, in there. I'm aging myself. I don't know who modern basketball players are.
Michael Jordan's still the best.
Yeah, okay.
Still very relevant in the conversation.
Okay. So obviously we're not going to be able to do it like he does it, because he's got the superior attributes to do it. He doesn't know the technique necessarily better. There's only a certain way to do it, but his attributes are better. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing like with boxing or anything else. There's throwing a jab is throwing a jab. I mean, there's variations and foot placement and all of that, twisting your hip, on and on and on. But if you don't have the attributes of the speed, timing, your flight time of sparring, you're not going to be able to pull it off. Right. So does that mean you don't know how to throw a jab? Well, it depends on the way you're looking at it.
Right.
You get these technical guys that just know, and those guys you can learn a shitload of information from. There's one guy, I won't mention his name. This guy just is like a encyclopedia of every single technique there is to know when it comes to Jun Fan.
Really?
Everything. And he just knows everything. The only reason I want to mention his name because it sounds like I'm saying he's not a fighter, so I won't mention his name.
Right.
And I don't mean it like that, but things can get convoluted. But he just knows every single technique and where the shoulder's placed and the structure and everything else. And somebody will say, well, how's that going to help me in a fight? Well, if you don't have good balance, you're going to get knocked over, right? I mean, so it's all these little things that help you become a better martial artist. And whatever you think a martial artist is, that's up to you,
right.
And it somehow becomes at times... for myself is overwhelming. And then it's like, okay, I want to check this out. And then it's like, you start looking at this. It's like, okay, he's doing, the high box, sombrado right now. It's a Kali term. And wait a minute, Eric's just got this new DVD out with knees and elbows. Now it's like, what do I watch? And you start watching this, and you click it over to this, and you do this and this. And then the scary part is that that phrase of, I know the last half, master of none. What is that?
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
So the whole phrase, everyone forgets this.
Yeah.
The whole phrase is Jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Well, Guru Dan adds on something, but Jack will jack you up. So, I mean, so again, what does it mean? I personally think that you can be a master of everything. And when I say master is you're proficient at it, you just got to train it. Right. So you just train it. So if you want to take 2 hours out of your day and you want to do, sprawls and double leg takedowns and all that stuff, that's cool. You're going to get great at it. So that's going to be what you're proficient at. Then you take the next 2 hours and you do a boxing workout. And then you take the next 2 hours and you get a massage because you're going to get sore. Okay. And then the next 2
I like this plan. I need to have that 2 hours in my day.
Cryotherapy, And then after that, then you do 2 hours in the evening of just rolling jiu-jitsu and a gi. You know what I mean? If you could have the time and the finances and the ability to do that, you're going to be a pretty good martial artist. I mean, most people can't do that. But if you can do that, you can be good in every single aspect of everything that you like if you're one of these guys that likes everything or you're a martial art junkie like myself. Right. But then you get the guys that are just into one thing and they are so good at it. They're specialists at the game. And that's cool. And those are the guys you seek out to help you, become well-rounded, so to speak, where you can do everything. That's why I think the religion thing is so cool, at least for me, because it's like I'm not learning it's not faith-based what I'm learning. It's the religious studies. I'm learning the facts and how these religions came about and what they mean. Mm-hmm. It's not, there's no proselytizing going on. It's not, I had intro to Buddhism over the summer. I wasn't being
converted to Buddhism. No. It's just it's academic.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I went from that to intro to Judaism, which was really cool. So it's like I'm JKD in that. You know what I mean? Where it's like I'm learning everything, a little bit of everything. But again, like the 12 areas of Kali, where the 12th part is your spiritual development, and that can mean anything. That could just be being able to calm yourself down because you're upset about something. It doesn't necessarily mean you become you go worship, or that I'm going to go on a mountain in Tibet and live there for 2 years, which would be kind of cool. But it just depends on your journey and your path. Like I said, I've been this past year. I somehow, this all started with Gabe Rodriguez last year, the year before.
How's he doing?
He's doing good. I mean, he's one of the only guys from the group, the original group of guys that's like really still training, and he's in great shape. Nice. He's doing jiu-jitsu and Thai and everything. But I ran into him. He lives in California. Okay. He doesn't live far from the academy, and he had contacted me on Facebook. Contacted me on Facebook to hook up. And so we hooked up, and ever since then, it's like somehow some mystical ball has started rolling, and all of a sudden, all these people from the past are popping up out of nowhere. Oh, yeah. Some people, whatever. But anyways, most of them are good people. But like, and you're the latest one on the tree. You know what I mean? Which is great. Yeah. But like me and Dean Ricardo started, working together again. Nice. He's helping me. I got Eric. If I could plug this?
Sure.
Cool?
No, definitely do. I was gonna, if you weren't going to do it, I was going to bring it up.
Yeah. I got Eric Paulson coming out for a seminar September 22nd. So if anybody
and that's going to be at Compritos,
that's
right?
At Compritos Gym, yeah.
Which is in Stratford Square Mall in Bloomingdale.
Yes.
For people that don't know, definitely.
Yeah. It's on the lower level, by the way, next to Payless. Nobody could find it half the time. So you got to make sure you look there.
Yeah, it doesn't have a sign outside. You got to know where to go in.
Yeah. I've been having Eric out. I think this might be my 10th year with him. If it's not, it's got to be close.
Right.
I bring him out a lot. I bring out Rick Fay a lot. I bring out Greg Nelson periodically. He's another guy.
Yeah, Greg's fantastic.
Yeah, he's another well-rounded martial artist, functional martial artist. He's a Muay Thai guy. I mean, he's everything. He's JKD, but he is a very functional Muay Thai guy, very functional Jiu-Jitsu guy. But Eric's coming out, and he's going to be doing mostly a lot of takedowns. And I want him to do he's got the new DVD out with the elbows and knees, which is really cool. Eric's he's a phenomenal. It's kind of funny because I really wasn't into MMA when I met Eric Paulson. It wasn't my gig. It wasn't something I really wanted to do.
So hold on.
Yeah. This is going to sound weird, but let me.
Okay, yeah. Spit it out. But I want to know how you met Eric Paulson. Let's get into that too.
Okay. Well, if you in the JKD family, especially when you everybody's and Sifu Larry Hartzell, Sifu. Hold on a second. He's growling. Somebody coming in?
No, I locked the door.
What are you hearing stuff, dude? Stop. It's okay. Bam Bam's growling. I think he wants to get on the mic. It's what it is.
Pull that up.
But Sifu Larry was one of the first guys to tell me to train with Eric, and I was doing a private with Sifu Larry, and there was the Motion Master. I don't know if you guys know what that. Okay. There's like 5 or 6 of them at the academy there.
What is that?
It's like a practice dummy to roll with, but it doesn't have arms and legs. It's just got little nubs.
It looks like a spiky ball. It actually looks like a giant dog toy.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Okay. It's pretty cool. It's a nice workout. If you have nobody to train with, you could do a lot of drills on it and stuff.
It's the wooden dummy of the ground.
Actually, yeah. Okay. It's like a boxer's heavy bag type of thing. It's really cool. So anyways, I seen that. What is that? He was telling me about it. Sifu Larry. He goes, Eric designed these, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay. And I'm like, well, I'm training with you. What do I need to train with him for, you know? And he's like, no, I'll go see him. And I'm like, okay. And then Dan mentioned him a lot in seminars, and it's just like Eric Paulson. It's like, all right, well, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Let me go check him out, you know? Even Tony had mentioned him a few times.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, who is this guy? So I went to go train with him. And like I said, wasn't into the whole sports thing of MMA. I was just, you know, it's a street fighting type of thing, and that was it. So it's like, well, what am I going to get out of this guy? You know, I mean, I don't want to compete or anything like that. And the very first, we were at his first school or second school, not where he's at now. And he took me, and I think Augie was with me then. We went to meet Rico Ciparelli, and he was a phenomenal guy. We went and met Josh Barnett, who happened to be training at his school at the time. And he put me through almost as bad of a workout as Tony did. Okay, I'm not going to say because Tony's is the top. You want to get in shape, do Tony's thing. But he almost put me through the same thing. And I just happened to like the guy. And that's why I started training. And I like it now. But at the time, it really wasn't what I wanted to do. I mean, it really wasn't something, these submissions. And, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't something I wanted to do. You know, I like the JKD, the more of the collie and all the cool stuff of the eye gouging and things like that, which Catch has it. But Eric's doesn't because it's, you got ring rolls. Yeah. Not that he doesn't know it, but.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But then I don't know what it is. It's like him and Tanya, his wife, at the time they weren't married yet. It's you build some kind of connection with these people. And it's like, you know what? I just want to go train because I want to hang around with these guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now I love what he does. Don't get me wrong. But at the time I didn't. And that was kind of like my transition into understanding, like what I talked about earlier, the importance of competing. And it has its place. It's not better or worse than the street fighting mentality. It's different. So if you could blend the two together, the workouts at least, and, taking the competition away from the street and putting it into the ring, you really can develop yourself. And Eric, I remember he had taken me, we went to go get coffee. And I remember he goes, he says, I know you're a Paul Vunek guy. And he goes, we're not about that stuff here. He goes, I love Paul. He goes, but we're not about street fighting. He goes, that's taking liberties out there. We don't do that anymore. Paul really doesn't do that anymore. This is like 2006 or 2007. Mm-hmm. He goes, I train athletes. And I was like, whoa, I felt like, he's not going to let me come around here again. You know what I mean? But he did, and I've been bringing him out ever since. I go out there as much as I can. Lately just, through different things, I haven't been training as much, but whatever. When you don't physically train because of limitations, then you start checking out things you read, you look at techniques and stuff. But that's how I got involved with him. And to this day, like I said, he's just one of those guys that him and Tanya, when they're together, it's like there's such a magnetic force around these two that you just fall in love with them. And, it's just something about them that just gets you to like. And then you just start liking what they're doing, even though that wasn't your intention to begin with.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because some guys, they could teach you a lot of cool stuff, but they're just like, they're like sticks in the mud. They're just like boring people. Yeah. And even when the way they're teaching is kind of boring, but what they're showing itself is really cool.
Right.
But that's how I met Eric.
Yeah. Now I've not actually met or trained with Eric thus far.
Come to the seminar.
Sounds like it's the place to be. But yeah, so I mean, my first exposure to Paulson, I think was probably early days NHB.
Okay.
I had his Killer Leg Locks and Killer Chicken Wings VHS tapes back then, of course, which I got through Ron Balicki because I used to train with Balicki every time he'd come out and do a seminar.
Okay. He was just up here, I think, at North Shore Academy.
Yeah, he's good good friends with Halleck and so like, and I remember, God, I can't remember the name of it, but like, Guru Dan had put out I think it was a DVD set when I saw it, at least, of just like a ton of JKD Filipino martial arts.
And Eric was the demo guy.
And Eric was
there's 9 There was 9 VHS tapes, and now that's DVD.
Yeah, like I said, I think I didn't see it until it was on DVD, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so like Eric was just like a known commodity as one of Guro Dan's like top guys.
Yeah.
One of the guys that was like a real hardcore fighter. You know, he was in tight with Nakamura. He was going over to Japan competing in Shudo. Like always known of him before he was like, oh yeah, that's Josh Barnett's coach.
Yeah, right. Well, the thing about him is that he's one of those guys I was always into, because even with Dion, he kind of dabbled into spiritual stuff, but I was always into all that. But here in Chicago, it's really not a thing. I mean, it's kind of nobody's really into. Now it's becoming more, but back then especially, people weren't into New Age as much. Especially here on the South Side. You didn't meditation and things like that. About spiritualism. I was always into that. Well, he's heavily into that, which I didn't know at the time. And that's where I really kind of jumped in with him. He does like a thing called Merkaba meditation, which is really cool. And that's one of the things that kind of really, along with the stuff I said previously, that really drew me to him. And it's the scary part is when you start checking yourself out inside here, there's some scary stuff that sometimes pops up. And then it's like your martial art training has to be there to kind of help you fight through the emotional demons that come out, which I'm assuming everybody has that. Maybe not. Hopefully
no,
they,
obviously
whatever.
not. I mean, come on.
But when you have somebody that can train you and teach you like that, and takes that personal touch to you, man, you just can excel in your personal development with an instructor like that. Because I mean, he was a guy that really was a big influence on me for a long time. Rick Fay has too. I mean, every instructor I had has done something for me at one point or another. Every student I've had, every training partner, whatever, has done something to help. Even somebody that I thought that it was bad at the time has done something positive for me.
Like in reflection?
Yeah, if you try to twist, you could always twist something and make it good. Believe it, I think. Even if it was a bad thing, some guy, he made a back of that with a 2x4. Okay, yeah, well, how can you make that into a good thing? Well, maybe I shouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? Maybe I should have been more, what's the word? The word escapes me. More focused on my surroundings.
Oh, like aware.
Aware, that's the word, sorry. Aware of my surroundings, type of thing. So there's a positive there. What's that phrase? Lemon to lemonade.
Life gives you lemons.
Yeah.
Make
As
lemonade?
corny as it sounds, I think it is. But
I mean, I do like lemonade.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
Right, exactly. I heard Dunkin' Donuts has a frozen lemonade, which is, they call it a colada. It's really cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out at some point.
Yeah. But it's funny, like, you bring up, going back to the athletes, the attributes and stuff. It's kind of funny. If I didn't lift, I never would have gotten involved in this, because I never would have been approached by anybody. I never heard of Kali in my life. Right. And JKD was just like, well, that's something Bruce Lee did. Okay, cool, whatever. Yeah. Who'd have thought there's a school out there or somebody that can teach that? Yeah. So look at how that sews everything together.
It's actually, like, it's kind of crazy, because different paths, obviously, but literally all of us got involved in grappling and jiu-jitsu through Filipino martial arts in some way, shape, or form. I, because of Jeff Speakman movies, wanted to train in Kali Arnis, found a school, and eventually that really, really ignited my love of martial arts. I really got into grappling, met Tony, years later started doing jiu-jitsu. That was if I hadn't done modern Arnis with my guru at the time, none of the other chain of events would have ever happened.
Yeah.
You guys both started doing Kali with Dion, right?
JKD Kali.
JKD Kali.
Yeah.
And eventually it's led you here to jiu-jitsu all these years later, and led you to, well, you teach it. I mean, you teach it at Comprito's school, right?
Yeah, I teach. I don't teach jiu-jitsu. I teach the stand-up stuff, and that's one of my bucket lists. You're asking about belts, and I've never done that.
That's why I was wondering that, because I know it's been I remember you there with me, so I'm like,
yeah.
God, it's gotta be. If he stuck with it, he'd be like, be at Caprito's level.
Yeah, I wish, but yeah, I mean, that's
in jiu-jitsu,
right. And it's funny because that's when you shoulda, coulda, woulda comes in. You know what I mean?
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but that's a bucket list of mine. I mean, Guru Dan started doing jiu-jitsu, I think, at 60. Or he got his black belt at 60.
Black belt.
Well, okay,
60.
Yeah.
So,
under the Machados.
Yeah. And so it's funny because maybe that's the thing. I'm following his path because maybe he started at 50. I'll be 50 next year.
It's a long game. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Yeah.
But you're still doing grappling through CSW, Paulson's.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
CSW.
I mean, I'm more of a scholar of his stuff, so to speak. Physically, I don't think I'm a very good representative of it, so to speak, to roll with somebody at this point because of my, just being out of shape. Technically, I can coach anybody, but that's a bucket list, and that's the journey, going. It's kind of interesting because the older we get, it's like you get tired of getting hit in the head.
I get very tired of getting hit in the head very early on. I want to say right now.
As far as, even
never liked getting hit in the head.
The interesting thing, there's a thing called it's called neuroplasticity, and with Kali, and the movements of Kali, and hitting the circuit breakers, setting the circuit breaker in the brain, and I think that they're noticing that I guess a couple studies had come out that the Kali training itself, not the Dog Brothers type of thing where you're beating the crap out of somebody, but the actual movements of Kali and just the clicking of the sticks and stuff like that helps to regenerate your body.
Come on.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And so it's called neuroplasticity. I forgot. I think the last guy's name was McCarthy, if I'm not mistaken. You can find it on YouTube. I'll send it to you guys. And it's really interesting because if that's all true, a lot of these MMA guys, anybody who does a lot of hardcore contact, you could probably benefit from that. You don't have to spar sticks, but I mean, just the movement,
just the drills.
Yeah, the drills, and the, and it's kind of interesting. Like even when I didn't know this, but like Rick Fay was talking about this, getting kicked in the leg a lot is really not good for your heart. The clotting and
okay,
because
it comes back up. Interesting.
Yeah, and then I remember even Tony talking about that with the chokes, how the calcium deposits inside the arteries in here. Am I saying that correctly?
Not calcium, but yeah.
Okay.
What's the term for that one?
Plaque? No.
Yeah, the plaque.
Okay.
That's the right term.
And that's because of all the chokes and everything that he was saying. So I mean, going back to longevity, that's my current quest, is to not necessarily find a fountain of youth, but to be able to regenerate my body enough to where I can keep doing what I'm doing and still be somewhat of a force in it, right. And not just be a guy who's this is what I used to do, type of thing. I mean, obviously we're all going to be there at one point, but I mean, still being able to, I go to the camps, and I see Guru Dan still rolling in jiu-jitsu.
Right. Yeah. That's, I think that's almost everyone I know. That's their goal is to, maybe we can't all be Guru Dan or Elio or Barry Phillips, but we all want to, have longevity in this.
Yeah. And I think that if we can find that, whatever it is that helps you with that, like that's what I like about Wing Chun. I think it's just the coolest thing because it really helps to, you're putting your arms and your hands in certain positions that they're just not used to doing. And especially if you're lifting a lot, it's really hard to get your elbows up and have the,
tucked inward.
Yeah. It's really difficult. So it's all these cool things, getting your body to do certain things it's not used to doing, because the body's made to move. The body's not made to be sedentary. It's made to move. Right. So if you can get your body into all these weird, awkward positions and be functional that way, I really think it helps with the longevity of the body in a health respect.
Sure. I can see that. I've always loved Kali. Ever since I've been doing it, it's just something I've always drawn to, and just that movement of the stick and just the drills. It's so peaceful, and it's so good for mechanics and your mind and your eyes, and everything seems to work together with that. Like
there's nothing like the smell of that wood when
burning
it's
baton,
right?
yeah.
Right?
It's so nice.
A whole lot of people don't know what the hell we're talking about here, but it's
well, come train with me and we'll figure it out.
There
right?
you go, for sure. You know, people have hit me up on on Facebook Messenger and stuff like that on the Grappler Union Facebook page, like, hey, where can we train, Kali? And I'm like, there you go.
I'm doing a lot of IPTPs now because I'm trying to get a school open. That's my focus now. Nice. So anybody wants to, without trying to plug myself, I just
for sure.
Hit me up, hit these guys up, and then we can connect anywhere. You guys want to train? It's up to you guys.
Cool.
What's interesting, is I got to say this because I told Jim I was going to talk about the training with the dogs. When you're teaching, that's like the next step in martial arts, and it's like, how do you're a dog trainer, you train dogs, and you teach martial arts. How does that? Well, I'll think about it for a second. You're not training the dog. You're training the owner of the dog to train the dog. I mean, obviously, I'm training my dog and I'm showing them how to train their dog, but I got to get to these people to do this to their dog.
Right.
Okay. So when I'm trying to get somebody to get into the gym because they want to lose weight or because they got bullied or something like that, and I got to somehow figure out a way to motivate this person to come, that all transcends into that. When I get, here's the interesting thing about Chicago Canine Academy. It's very old school training. And when I say that old school is that there's a lot of corrections involved. When you get a big, powerful dog like Bam Bam is, throwing him a treat is not really going to work too well with him when he's trying to go eat the dog in front of him, So I need to give them a good correction, which a lot of people don't like. They can't handle that. They don't want to see their dog, and it looks like you're beating the crap out of the dog, and you're really not. I mean, these dogs can take a lot. They're big, muscular dogs. So when you give a correction with the leash or something like that, you have to get the owner to accept that, or else they're going to lose their dog.
Right.
Or else their dog's going to get put to sleep, or they're going to have to get rid of the dog. And a lot of people are looking for quick fixes, like the big thing, you should have neutered your dog. No, I should have trained my dog. And that's what I did. I don't need to neuter my dog. My dog doesn't get out. My dog doesn't he doesn't try to escape to go looking for a female in heat. I make sure he's not around females in heat because I'm a responsible owner. I don't need to alter my dog, another living being, because I don't want to take responsibility for having this type of animal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There are situations where neutering your dog is a good thing, but if you're doing it for behavioral reasons, maybe you should train your dog.
Right.
And if you're worried about the pet population, don't let your dog get pregnant. Don't let your dog knock up another dog. Right. You would be responsible, and it's a long process. So that's the thing of what martial arts. I think the injustice that happens in martial arts is the people that say that they can make you something in this amount of time. I don't think that's the case, because you can't judge that, because each person is an individual, and each person grows at their own way. And it's the same thing with, some dogs are just dumb. And, and you just gotta.
It's gonna be a lot of work.
A lot of work, but you could do it because you love your dog. And then you got to get that across to the owner in such a way where you're not insulting them by saying your dog's dumb, even though that's what Jim says. But, Jim's been around 30 plus years. He's a very successful guy. But the idea is being able to, and another thing is that connection. If you can there's very few things out there that are cooler than being out in a forest preserve with your dog, and your dog's not going to go anywhere because he's been trained, and you're doing shadow boxing, you're doing Kali, doing some Carenza, which is like shadow boxing with the stick. There's very few things that are as cool and serene as that. And if you could do that with having your dog there, and or if you're just sitting there and watching the lake or the river go, and you're just sitting there and your dog's right there, and you got that bond with your animal, and you have that bond not because you got him on a leash and you're holding on tight, but you got that connection mentally with your dog, that he's got your back and you got his no matter what happens. And if you can convey that to the owner of the dog, you've accomplished something. And I think that's the same thing when you teach martial arts. If you can inspire the student, you know, it's kind of interesting. The guys who are really successful, they very rarely talk about money. And when I say successful, they have a lot of money. In martial arts, you know, Eric Paulson, you know, does pretty good financially, but he very rarely, if ever, talks about money. You know, Tanya handles all the money, but I mean, he's got somebody else to talk about it. But his brand, so to speak,
is doing well.
Is doing well because he's got that inspirational way about him. And it all depends on the type of person you are, and you got to be able to adjust to that. Like, I'll bring Jim up again. I was having problems with Bam Bam going to the dog parks years ago. He's 6.5 now. And he was telling, when I called the guy up, I was at my wit's end. I went to everywhere. Nobody could help. And I called him up on the phone. Never met this guy. Now, this is why I love the guy. I told him what's going on. I'm taking him to the dog park, this, that, and the other thing. He goes, all right, listen, I'm going to tell you. He goes, first of all, you're a fucking idiot for taking your dog to the dog park. Now, I don't know this guy. Right. Who is this guy talking? I'm Marcus Charles. You know, I was in a gang fights and everything. You know what I mean? Who is this guy talking to? Does he know who I am? You know what I mean? Right. Talking to me? You know, and I was like, I got to meet this guy. He's got balls, you know. And I'll never forget when I walked into the place, which I never knew this, but you never let your dog walk in front of you when you come in there because you're in charge, not your dog. Right. Oh, dog, they're pack leaders, you know, that type of thing. So naturally, he opens the door. Here goes Bam Bam running in there. He's flipping out, screaming at me about letting him go first. That's the first fucking thing. I've been going on and on and on. I'm like, whoa, what did I get into? Tony Cicchini again? No, I'm just kidding. Right? But anyways, Bam Bam was in a half hour. He made a connection with Bam Bam. And Bam Bam was like perfect. He brought in dog after dog, and there was no reaction on him at all.
Come on.
Yeah, that's just how this guy was.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Bam Bam was one of those dogs that he was able to work with right away.
Yeah,
Some dogs you can't. It's harder. Right. It's harder. Yeah. You know, if there is such a thing as a dog whisperer, Jim's it. You know, and if you could do that with a student,
the white belt whisperer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, but if you could do that with a student, then how much more of an influence are you to somebody? How important are you? And whatever tool you use to do it, whether you write a book, whether you do religious studies, whether you go into the UFC, or whatever, like McGregor. People can say what they want about the guy, the way he talks and everything. I think the guy's phenomenally inspirational.
Yeah.
I really do.
I don't disagree.
I mean, the way he trains and he's so unorthodox and everything and all that other stuff that's just all flash and whatever. Right. Let him say what he wants. To me, that's me personally. Right. You know,
you can see through the bullshit.
Yeah. Right. You know,
I got no problem with just about anything McGregor's ever done in the cage. I do take issue sometimes with some of the things he says.
Yeah, and again, everybody's got a right to that.
And
you know?
and that whole incident with the bus.
Yeah, whatever.
The bus.
When he threw the thing on the
dolly.
bus.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, let's stay positive. But anyways, yeah. But it's like, you know, if you can kind of, the interesting thing, like going back to, you know, without, and touching very lightly on this, the political stuff with martial arts and politics and so on, you can go back to the dogs, like say pit bulls and whatever. You know, Bam Bam's a mix. And people say, oh, he's such a nice looking boxer and this and that. And I won't tell you that he's part pit. I won't say it right away.
Because of negative connotations in a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people, but I just won't say it. But then sometimes I will, just to test, whatever. And you could sometimes see the people change automatically. He's the same fucking dog. Excuse me. He's the same dog.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. He's the same dog.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you don't like him. You don't even want him around your dog because he's part pit. You're goofy. You know what I mean? That's the race, that's the prejudice that people have because of the media, what they hear constantly. They don't get involved into something far enough to make a judgment. They take it for the face value.
And I'll be honest with you, I never really understood that with pits. I mean, like, I've never had a bad experience with a pit personally. They're all, for the most part, the ones I've met, have all been just lovable dogs, you know, very friendly, you know, want to grab that big head of theirs. You know? And
I mean, it all comes back to the owner, really. I mean,
right. Pits are bred to fight. Okay, that's what they're bred to do. They're bred to fight. Period. End of story. And so when you got a dog that's bred to swim, like a lab or something like that, to go after something, that's what they do. You know, so you can't. You're never going to get that out of, like, to this day with Bam Bam. You know, he's got a thing with huskies. It's kind of interesting. A lot of bully breeds, there's like a broad stroke talk that's still debatable, but a lot of bully breeds have issues with the Nordic style breeds, and the reason being is because the Nordic breeds, when they approach, their ears are up. Their heads are always up, their chests are out, and their tails are always curled up.
Okay, and it looks like
a challenge.
Right.
And when you got a dog that's bred to fight, you know, they're ready to go. So with him, if a husky would go by, he would literally, he'd have to get corrected because he knows he's not supposed to. But if he thinks he's got an opportunity, he'll take it. And I train him every day. So that's his personality. I'm not going to I'm not going to get that out of him. But I can control that, though. That's the key.
When you say what do you like? Do you have certain things you have to do with the dog? When you say you train him every day, or is it just correcting him at certain periods?
No, I on my Facebook. Bam Bam has his own Facebook page, Bam Bam Charles. Everybody like it.
Nice. I'm going to make sure to put that at the end of the show.
Please.
Bam Bam's so far our best behaved guest.
Yes,
ever.
yes, very. all the videos of the work that I do with him are on there.
Oh wow!
But when I say I train him every day is like I'll be in the house. And then I'll just turn around and just say, he'll be whatever I'll be. Bam, Bam, sit. And he gets up and he sits. Sometimes. Or I'll tell him, stand. And he'll look at me, stand. And he stands. Mm-hmm. Free dog. And we're done. There's your training for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Letting him know I'm always on top because he's a dominant dog.
Right.
You know, we have students that are like that are always going to get lazy. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of always... That can be frustrating, but if you can understand what you're dealing with and not expect something that's not there, and maybe that's the Buddhism thing coming out in me, but this is what you're dealing with. If you know a guy that you're dealing with is a hardcore business guy and it's always him first, no matter what you do, you could deal with the guy. Because you know what to expect,
right.
You know, and you're dumb if you try to do business with him. You expect him to take care of you first, so to speak.
Right.
You know, so if I got a dog like him, or any pit for that matter, has its decent breeding, and he sees another male that's willing to, you know, come to the challenge. Well, I'd be stupid to just let him off leash. Oh, let him play and see what happens.
Right.
Okay, I know what I got. And it's the same thing with martial arts, the responsibility, going back like with the street fighting stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm surprised a lot of us haven't done hard time for some of the things we did. We got lucky getting away with what we got away with, doing some of the things that
it's a different world out there now. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So that being the case, you know, there's a responsibility that the instructor has to have, and then there's a responsibility that you have to have as a person who knows whatever we know to do to somebody. You know, even if it's just submissions, if the guy, you know, if you want to just keep going with it, you're tearing joints apart and everything else. I mean, it's not just, let me go, and you just, all of a sudden, okay, I'll let you go. And his arm's hanging off, you know. So you got to be responsible with that. And I think that if you can, and I don't know if that comes with, I don't know if somebody at 20 can do that without guidance. I don't know if somebody's that evolved. I don't know if that's wisdom.
I mean, I know age, I wasn't.
Yeah. It's like, you know, and again, is that your teacher or is it, because I remember I was just talking to Dan about this where, you know, we used to say that, you know, when the instructor would tell, he doesn't want his students to fight. And Paul and Dan would say, yeah, you remember what was this phrase to that? Because they don't want their students getting their ass kicked because they can't fight. That's the way people talk. That's the way we talked back then. Right. That's probably not the case. But back then, that's the way the mentality was. Mm-hmm. And at that point, we thought we were right. In retrospect, probably not. But now, okay, so would I say that to like I'll tell the students now, if anybody comes in, if I find out you guys are using any of these knife techniques or doing any of this stuff and you guys are out of here. I don't want to deal with you.
Right.
Okay? So I put that out ahead of time. You know, it's kind of funny in retrospect. Is it right or is it wrong? Is there a right or is there a wrong? You know, do you need to go through this to make it the way it is now?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about it, where it's like, you know, so this is a couple of years ago. I run into one of the guys that I used to train Japanese jiu-jitsu with. I hadn't seen him in years. He was the senior black belt. He had a lot of experience in another style of jiu-jitsu prior to that. And he was always a fantastic training partner. Got along with him great. But yeah, like we came up together.
Yeah.
And like I said, hadn't seen him in years. Ran into him, get to talking, and I can't remember exactly how he said it, but we were talking about, the good old days and us training together. And he looks at me and he goes, "Man, you used to be so cocky back then." And it took me back. Like it really took me back. I'm like, I haven't seen you in like 7 years, and that's like one of the first things you say to me. How cocky was I?
Right. That's all they remember you of, right?
And sure enough, I thought back about it, and I'm like, man, I was such a fucking terrible little shit at like 22, probably. Hadn't calmed down, hadn't settled down, still had a temper. Wanted to be out there, testing myself constantly, and not always in the best way.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny, but like, I wouldn't be where I am now and who I am now if I hadn't gone through that phase.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, how do you, I don't know how, it's kind of interesting, maybe it's another book, but it's like, how do you process that and how do you convey that? And then it's like, do you want to talk about certain things that happen to you? Let's say the gang fights that have happened or other battles that happened with our PFS glory days, do you really want to convey that? Because do you want some young impressionable kid who's coming up in your thing to be doing that? You know what I mean? How do you do it? You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, you did it. Why can't I do it? Well, that was back then. You're not me. Do what I say, not what I do, type of thing. And then
right. That's always a hard. I mean, I got kids. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's always a hard one.
Is it? Okay.
The do as I say, don't do as I do. But you always hope that you make mistakes, you learn from them, and then you hope that you can pass that wisdom on so that the people don't have to repeat those mistakes.
Right.
But a big part of learning and really appreciating that stuff is making those same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, if we relate it back to like technique, like you can listen to your coach say, don't put your head down there, you're going to get caught in a triangle. But until you actually get caught in that triangle, you don't really have a full appreciation for it. Right. And that applies to everything. It's like, okay, yeah, my dad told me I shouldn't do this, but oh shit, Dad was right.
Right. Or it's like you get the one that is gonna do it because you were told not to do it. Right?
There's always gonna be those guys that are like, listen, he says don't do this. The old man's wrong. I'm gonna go find out for myself.
Right.
And
that's when you make it on YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the best YouTube videos.
Well, that's interesting. Like with with that, like with the dog training stuff, is that there's certain things of like getting the dog to heel next to you. A lot of we call it Fuß for German, but getting the dog to heel next to you, and guys you tell them don't waste all your time. When the dog steps out on the side like that, step on his foot, and he'll go right where you want him to go. And it usually takes 2 or 3 times, and the dog will, unless the dog's a red zone dog, and then you lost a couple toes. But, but other people will be like, oh, no, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. Or they want to figure out a way to do it themselves, right. Which in a way is, if I remember that one study I read about it, it does show intelligence when you're bucking what you're told.
Right.
I think. There's a certain amount of intelligence where you question something to a point.
You don't want to you don't want to take things on blind faith necessarily.
Right. Because we're not robots. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, Rick Fay was talking about this. I mean, Rick's had his school since 1982,
and that's a Minnesota College Academy.
College group, yeah. I'm a branch school in Chicago, by the way. So anybody wants to learn MKG in Chicago, we're good. But since 1982, so. He's been training with Master Chai forever, him and Greg Nelson. Mm-hmm. And he's got these pictures up at the school where they're in like this dungy place doing whatever. So I think he knows a little bit about Thai boxing. Just a little, yeah. So if somebody comes in that just happened to go to Thailand and train at Fairtex Gym for a couple weeks, and then they come in and tell him, you're doing this wrong, there's a story behind all that, but it's kind of like, well, like what he says, I pay the bills here. I've been doing, you've been doing it since '82, right, Rick? Yeah, I think a little bit, maybe. Yeah, maybe a little. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, and what's interesting, like with what I like about the Kali group is that their Thai boxing is geared to blend into
the Kali,
everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, the Kali, the Jun Fan, and all that.
Wow.
It's geared to blend it in. Nice. But if you really want to fight, that type of thing, then he'll veer you off to Greg Nelson, which is he's a hardcore, Thai guy. Well, I'm so ticked off though, because I didn't know. Do you remember a night where I had a chance to go, and I think you were around then, and I didn't. But Greg Nelson was fighting at the, I think it was Morton East in '82 and '92. He was doing a Muay Thai match, and I think it was against Ron Balicki.
Oh wow! No, I don't.
And it was over on the south side there. I think it was either Cicero, whatever it was. And I remember Dion and Dave were going.
For sure.
And I kill myself that I didn't go because it's like, okay, I don't know who Greg Nelson is. I don't train with Ron. I train with Dave or with Dion. So what did I care? Right. And now in retrospect, it's like I still don't train with Ron, but not that I don't want to, but just haven't. But I train with Greg, and it's like, why didn't I see this? I missed something.
Is that available? Is that available to see somewhere?
It's on YouTube somewhere. I remember seeing it. Yeah, there's a clip because obviously the recordings aren't the best back then. Yeah.
VHS.
Yeah.
You posted a cool old school fight between Matt Hume and Eric Paulson on the seminar.
Yeah. That's I think that might have maybe that's the one with his nose was broke. I'm not sure. That one I'm not too sure of. But it was just really cool just thinking about all this old stuff to what we did, because I remember just all we did. I remember was just I'd lift in the morning, and then we'd train at night. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first met those guys, Dion and that, it was like I'd lift in the morning, and we'd train at the American Martial Arts Academy at 10 at night. We'd all meet there about 10 o'clock at night. We'd train till midnight. Then we go drive to Mother's Day restaurant, which I don't even think is there anymore.
Not there anymore. Over on Ridgeland?
Yeah.
Ridgeland and Cermak?
Yeah, it's gone, right?
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. We'd go there and eat and come home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's all we did for, I don't know, a year or two. That's all we did. That was the life. It was so cool. I just miss those days of that innocent training and discovering and just yourself and all that. It was just the coolest thing. And then every once in a while we'd go to Al's Pizza, which I think is...
That's still there.
Is it still there?
Cicero,
okay. Yeah. And then Salerno's, which had moved, I think.
Moved at 16th Street in Berwyn.
Yeah. That was a old school.
That was
old school. There was no windows there.
No,
it was just like
you walk in. It was like
old school Italian.
Old school Italian. They had blocks where windows would be.
Yeah.
Sections,
they were closed off.
They were painted.
Yes.
Paintings of like Italy.
Is this a mob joint? Or?
I don't know.
But there's a Salerno's down in Bolingbrook, actually.
Same family.
It's the same. Okay, that's what I figured.
Pizza's not as good.
Not as good.
Oh, damn.
Sorry, they're one of my clients, but that's great. It's the best. The best.
But we do that. That was like, and then Freddy's.
Yeah,
which is still there, I think, right?
Yeah,
still
took me to Freddy's. That was an experience.
The best. Actually, the Missy from Fight to Win. You
told her to go to Freddy's?
No, I took her when they came in and did the podcast.
Uh-huh.
We took them out to lunch there, Paul and I. And when she came back into town, she I had to go to Freddy's. I had to do it. I'm like, well, you should have called me. I would have went with you. I would have met you there. I love Freddy's.
Missy, I'm calling you out. Next time you're in town, we're going to Freddy's together. I'll come off the dive for that.
Yeah,
it's really cool. Just when you go back and then I mean, some conflicts have popped into my head too. Because there's arguments with people and things like that. And it's kind of in retrospect, it's kind of like, man, why did we battle like that? You know what I mean? It's just like, and then you try to reconnect and all that stuff, and it just because those are times that are unique that you're never ever going to share with anybody else but between you and whoever that is.
Yeah.
So even if it was like me and Gabe, Gabe Rodriguez, we didn't really hang that much, so to speak. I mean, we were part of the group,
right?
But there was always whatever friction, and now it's like we're tight, we're cool. You know what I mean?
There are a lot of alphas in our group.
It's pretty much all alpha, I think, except for Skinny Gabe.
Skinny Gabe, you're right, 100%.
Yeah, and I think what he did was he went the passive aggressive route.
Yes.
Now where it's, I think, where he just kind of.
He was so technically sound.
Yeah.
My God, his boxing was.
But you see, I used to always equate our group with like the Beatles, because the Beatles were basically all alphas except for Ringo.
Yeah.
You gotta love Ringo, but obviously he's not John Bonham. Sorry.
Right.
But anyways, but they're all alphas. I mean, you got Lennon, McCartney, Harrison. Yeah. Great. I mean, George Harrison, All Things Must Pass, blows away anything that those guys did solo. I'm sorry. It's just as good as any other Beatles album. You guys want to yell at me, that's fine. But he was just as good of an artist as Lennon and McCartney. So you got all these big egos there. There's no room for you guys. And I think that's kind of like what happened with us, whereas it's like, Dion ran the show. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, it's his show. All right, well, fine, I'll start my own show. That type of thing. You had the egos, obviously. Gomez did his thing, Gabe, Randy,
Jeremy.
Jeremy, I hear from, I don't know if he's training anymore.
Oh, no?
I don't know, but I see
another one that's awesome.
Yeah, I remember when we had that big fight in, it was in Addison, and we were all there, and I remember it was, I think Rodriguez started that one, if I remember right. I didn't. But anyways, but I just remember, or Dave, one of the two. Anyways, I remember that turned into a big melee, and I just remember Jeremy. He was just elbowing the guy.
Yeah.
He was so small, but he had this flexibility with his elbows, where his elbow would go past the center, the center of his body. He just had this flexibility, and I remember that. I forgot the name. Bone Crushers. Does that sound right? Does that sound like a type of place? Bone Crushers. Anyways, it was on Lake Street in Addison. The building's still there because I just drive past it all the time going to Hackney's. But that's those type of things is where if all alphas can unite together,
right?
You're safe. You know what I mean? Kind of like, I'm a huge classic rock fan, so like the Who, those guys never got along, but they were so in such competition with each other. Their respective skills had to be better than the other person, so to speak. Right. So they made themselves so good.
Right.
You know what I mean? They just had
the competitiveness pushed them to greatness.
Yeah. And I think that was the mistake we all made, that if we would have been able to just swallow our pride enough to stay together and expand that way, I think we'd still be all together. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of... and Rob Sizz, remember Rob Sizz? Yeah, he went to go, I think he's managing a casino somewhere. He's like Robert De Niro in Casino. Yeah, that's what he's doing.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
He was a tough guy too. I didn't like training. I didn't like him being my partner. He was just always hurting.
He was an original dude. Yeah, he was another guy. He had a jab that would he could stick it right in you out of nowhere. Where did that come from? He was one of those guys. Gomez.
Jim too.
Jim Molinar. Yeah, Jim was just a small dude, but he was a muscular guy.
So thick.
Yeah, I liked working out with him, training with him. He was an older guy.
Yeah, he was.
At
he had the beard, right?
Yeah, he had the beard. Yeah, I think he ended up just, I don't know what happened to him. I know I haven't heard from him in years. I wish I could get a hold of him. He was a cool guy. But Sizz, him, he really wasn't an alpha, so to speak. He was kind of cool because he was so much older than all of us.
Jim?
Yeah, he was kind of like the guy that...
He was relaxed. But
well, yeah, he wasn't out there. He didn't go and get in fights. He was a guy, he had a job, he worked. I mean, he didn't get into fights, but he was there that day with that thing that happened with that school. But I remember, like, if I had a tiff with Dion, let's say, whatever, he'd be the mediator between everybody. He was one of those guys. But yeah, there were, now that I think about it in retrospect, there was a lot of alphas. We all wanted to be... Number one,
Davey was.
Dave Dave can jam his foot into your leg like nobody's business. I mean, he was just one of those guys. He could do the Bruce Lee the JKD G-Tech, right? Boom! He just jammed it right in there, and he would like hop on his rear foot and jam it into your leg.
It's all those years of Taekwondo.
Probably, yeah, because he was a real crazy Taekwondo guy. Yeah,
so flexible.
Yeah,
quick.
And that's the guy that got you into it.
Yeah. Because I was dating his sister.
Yeah. I don't even think he trains anymore. I know he's
still sheriff, right?
He's an Illinois corrections officer or something.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think he trains much. But I mean, all that stuff that we did was just all to develop yourself. And it's kind of like, no matter how hard you want to pull away from that, I think those roots will always be there.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of scary. Like I've seen an interview, as corny as this is going to sound, that girl who played Jan Brady.
Okay.
She says she doesn't regret it, but she just wishes sometimes it would go away, being Jan Brady.
Right.
But she says that she's come to the fact that that's who she was.
It's her identity.
You know, you can't take that away. Or like, what's his name? As corny as this sounds, David Cassidy.
Yeah.
He wanted to be a rock star, and he ended up being a teenage heartthrob.
Right.
And he ended up passing away, but he came to the acceptance of who he was.
Right.
You know, so as much as we tried to, like when you're saying about the kids, eventually you end up doing what Dad told you to do anyway, even though you may not admit it to Dad.
Right.
You know,
that never happens.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's kind of like the same thing. You know, we can't deny. I was talking about this with Dion, and we can never deny what Dion brought here. He was one of the first guys to bring jiu-jitsu to the Midwest. You know, a lot of people don't know that. He was the guy bringing, Hickson out. Then he brought out Megaton Diaz. He was the guy who introduced a lot of that. Now he left that go and he's doing other things, obviously. So obviously he didn't, turn into a BJJ champion, whatever, which is okay. But, he's the one who kicked the ball rolling with a lot of that. Yeah. And, and you can't deny that. So you can never deny who taught you something or who gave you the start into something. Boxing. Sifu Larry Hartzell, really big into boxing, but actually it's kind of interesting. Tony was really, I remember me, Tony, and Augie went to go see Rocky Balboa, the movie. We went to go see it. Tony loves boxing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. So that was a big part too why I started liking boxing. Because, after a while, even if you were fighting it at the time, you heard it so much, eventually your resistance goes away.
Right. You just got to be like, this is my life now.
well, yeah, but it's like, then let's say you hear it, like, say, I heard it from Larry Hartzell.
Right.
So all of a sudden, wow, didn't I just hear this? I heard that from somebody. Who did I hear that from? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, yeah, that was Tony. That was Tony. So Tony, thank you if you're listening. But you can't deny where you come from. You could learn from where you came from. And if you could remember that and accept that, you're going to just release so much that's holding on to you, that's keeping you down, and just you're going to expand your knowledge in whatever that you do, I think. Yeah. And that doesn't have to be martial arts. It could be computer business or whatever it is. Just accept it. Hey, yeah, I train with so-and-so. I train with so-and-so. You don't like them. I don't have to like them, or whoever it is, but I did train with them.
Right.
And you give that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden when you say you trained with them, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it wasn't that bad of a guy or that bad of a person. Or I'm using it as an example.
Yeah.
And next thing it's like, we had some fun times. We used to do this. Me and Dion were talking about that. We'd sit there and be out in front of American Martial Arts Academy, talking about the Three Stooges or something. And just, me and him haven't talked in years until, about two or 3 months ago. And it's just interesting when you start going back down memory lane sometimes, how you can rekindle old relationships. And the old phrase is you got to contract before you expand, or the snake recoils before he strikes. So you kind of go back to your roots. Rocky III, he took him back to his roots, right?
Back to his roots.
Obviously, he wasn't from L.A., but and we went to that same type of training. So I think if everybody does stuff like that, and even purposefully do it, not like by accident, like what started happening with me, but if you force yourself to do that, I really think you can really refinish your foundation and refill in the gaps that are there and make yourself even stronger.
Yeah.
So now speaking of roots here, you're saying that like you're an affiliate of Rick Fay.
Yes.
So now I know like a lot of the Inosanto guys have a very extensive exposure to a variety of Kali styles. I don't remember how many styles are in the Inosanto blend offhand. It's like 20 something, isn't it?
His mainly it's La Costa. That's who he was trained with. But he's got, he's trained with.
Right, because there was Lameco and
right. I guess Saluti, all that, yeah.
Yeah, so which styles have you personally had a lot of exposure to? What's the main focus?
I basically, through Guru Dan, has been, for the Kali, has been obviously the La Costa system.
Okay.
I know, like through Rick, it's kind of the same, but there's also a lot of Pakiti Tersha in there. And there's so many different factions of that as well.
Right.
I mean, those guys are some serious people when it comes to the knife. I mean, I've heard some really horror stories with those guys. I mean,
yeah, I've trained with the Syaks, and they're through the.
Yeah, that guy just passed away, I think.
Oh, wow.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, please don't,
I've been out of the circle, so
okay, verify that, please. But I think he passed away. Yeah, but I did for a little while, train with under the I'm not even going to say it right. Leo Haron. Right. I never met him, but Tony Samero. I worked a little bit with those guys, not much, very minute amount, and he had passed away. I'm just trying to think offhand. A lot of the stuff, the knife stuff I learned from Sifu Larry was Lameko, Edgar Saluti stuff.
Man, Saluti was so good.
Oh, he was crazy. He was
lost that
guy.
one too early.
Well, that was where Rick was talking about because of all the stick sparring he did and getting hit on the body, all the buildup and just the blood gets cut off.
Right.
I'm just trying to think of. There's so many systems out there. You got the Serrata system, Leo. I'm really bad with names, but the Serrata system. You have I mentioned La Costa, and then you have a lot of systems that are Attilo with Balintawak, which is fairly new. I've been exposed to that recently. Okay. It's not new style, but
right. I know what you meant. Yeah, but yeah,
and I'm sure there's more, and there's a lot of stuff that's probably I'm taught. I just don't know.
Don't know the source
came from there.
Are you going to show us anything today? Because we usually do a guest technique after the end of the podcast.
Whatever you want.
Got those sticks?
Yeah, I do. Do you really?
I've got a stick.
I've got
two sets of sticks with me at all times.
Whatever
at
you
all
want.
times.
Not all
At all times. Yeah, for sure. Whatever you want.
I think we should do. We should do a little guest technique. I mean, it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It could be whatever guest technique you want to show.
I think
on Javi.
What? No. You're going to do the Kali demo, buddy.
No problem.
Yeah, whatever you guys want. That's cool.
All right, let's wrap this up. Let's go do a little Kali.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast.
Right.
Thanks, man.
Dude, it's been so nice connecting with you.
Yeah, dude, we got to do this more.
Yeah, we got to bring some more of the guys in.
Yeah, for sure, man. We should all. What would be cool?
What?
I don't know if it'd work, but if we got us all together in one room and talk,
fuck yeah,
wouldn't that be crazy?
Do we know what we do? We do fight companions here, so we'll watch like the UFC fight here.
Oh yeah,
and then we'll bring like pizza, beer, whatever. We should do a bunch of guys. 'Cause we got more mics.
Oh
yeah,
really?
Dude.
Oh, that would be crazy.
That'd be fucking great.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Old PFS fight companion.
Oh man.
This could be an interesting one.
It'd be fun.
That would be cool.
All right.
Awesome, man. For sure. By the way, guys, Eric Paulson, September 22nd.
Yep.
Please check out, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and check out the seminar. It's $75. Get it in and get your spot.
And where are you located?
I am going to be. The seminar is at Comprito BJJ in Stratford Square in Bloomingdale. I am now offering IPTPs, private lessons on anything you want to know that I know. So check out my webpage at www.marcuscharles.net and check out the credentials, see what I have to offer. And if anybody wants to do anything, wherever you want to do it, let me know, and then we'll figure it out.
Sweet.
Cool. And what's your Instagram?
Instagram is southsidecali.net.
And his Instagram?
Bam Bam also has. I don't think I have Instagram. Facebook is Bam Bam Charles. So everybody like Bam Bam, make him feel good. Okay. And then guys, you need dog training. Chicago Canine Academy by Jim Morgan and the Dog Den with Alexa Chavez.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Thanks,
cool,
Marcus.
Guys. Thanks, guys.
Right, see you. Bye.
Awesome.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Very Hard to Submit. Go to vhtsny.com and check out their kimonos, compression gear, and apparel. This is a brand we are excited to be supported by. Their gear is high quality with a clean design. Go to vhtsny.com and see for yourself. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right?
Oh.